Hello again, it's Mr. David. I am going to be doing lesson 7-7 in math today called Multi-Step Division Number Stories with you. This lesson requires a lot less materials than our last lesson where we had to build that chart and everything to help us out, but this lesson has a lot of thinking and a lot of things we're going to go over in it. It only has 4 problems and some math boxes, but each problem has several steps that are kind of long that we have to kind of think about, because if you just go at first glance, you will probably make a mistake. You need to take some time and think about what it says and use some things that you know. One thing that may be handy sometimes in here is a conversion chart, and if we need it, I will show you where it is or show it to you. It is in the inside cover, front cover of your math book. It shows how to convert some things, and if there's anything that requires converting in here, it would all be there. Most of this, though, I think is stuff you can do without converting. So, the objective of today's lesson is to be able to solve a multi-step division number story. We've done multi-step multiplication, addition, and subtraction this year, and now we're doing the last one, which is division. A multi-step division number story. The division is going to happen in lots of places, and the key word to remember is multi-step. That means your first guess probably is only part of the answer. You've got to work your way through it and do more than one thing. That's why they're leaving this somewhat generous space here. If there's not enough space to work, you can always have a piece of scrap paper to help you. Which brings me to what supplies you're going to need today. To do this lesson, you're going to need your pencil, obviously your book, page there, and you might want a piece of scrap paper if you feel that this room down here is not enough room to show your work to be able to answer the questions. Now, I am going to use a highlighter during the lesson. You do not need to do that unless you feel like you want to copy what I'm doing to help you think about it. Okay, so up here, please put the date and time of the lesson that you are working on and when you're doing it, so I can see the order you're doing things in to make sure that you're following along and working on it regularly. Down here, it says for each problem, we have to make an estimate and then solve. Well, we got to talk about this word just a little bit here, because before we do the second part, which is answer the questions, we have to know what this means. Now, we've talked about estimates in class, but I just want to refresh it for everybody so we know. An estimate is what we call a good guess, an estimated or educated guess. When I look at a pile of something and I see there's, 10 or 20 in one pile and 15 in another, I know there's about 35. I don't know exactly how many, but I know there's about that much. I wouldn't say, oh, there's billions there. That's not an estimate. That's a guess, okay? And it's not a good one either. An estimate is a good guess. One you're going to use information to pull together and get it. Now, one of the tricks when we do these problems is sometimes we're so worried about making our estimate match our solution that we do most of the work for the estimate before we actually solve the problem, and then you end up doing the work twice, which seems like kind of a waste of time. So we're going to talk about today how to estimate with what we have here. We're going to try to do most estimating in our head and then do the solving on the paper. There's no sense in doing it on paper and then doing it on paper again and then answering it. That's just kind of silly. We're going to learn how to estimate with our heads and then do our work on paper and then solve it. So each question you're going to solve today has this format. It has a story. It has a place to put an estimate. It's got some workspace. And then there's a sentence that you complete. This is actually the answer. It doesn't say it, but when you fill in the blanks in this sentence, it gives the answer to this question. And in the bottom, they want to know what equation you use. Now, you can get that equation with the letter out of your work up here, because that's part of our steps of doing it. So we're just going to be finding it here and kind of putting it down here too. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 parts to the problem. That's multi-step right there. But to even solve it, we have to take multiple steps. So we're going to go over that now and kind of talk about it. So let's do one together to see how to do it. And then I'll give you some hints on the other ones, and then we'll go over the math boxes. All right? So, story number 1. Margaret and her friend have 2 summer job offers. So an offer means they would like you to work here, but they haven't taken it yet. A job babysitting is for 8 hours each week, with Margaret and her friend, this is important, working this job, they would earn $208 each week. So 8 hours each week, both of them have to work $208. A summer camp job is worth 7 hours each week, and it would earn $210 each week, and both of them, because it says together, both of them need to do it to earn it. Which job pays more per hour for each girl, and how much more per hour? Okay, now in the estimate, we don't have to come up with that exact answer. We have to kind of just round it off, figure it out, and see what we have going on here. Now, the question is not which one earns more money, because that's already answered. This one, 210 is more than 28. But that's not what it's asking. It's asking which one pays more per hour for each girl, and how much per hour. Because remember, they're working together to earn this money. So Margaret gets half of this money, and her friend gets the other half. And if they take this job, Margaret gets half of that money, and her friend gets the other half. So Margaret is not making 208 or 210. She's making half of that, 104 or 105. And her friend is making the other half of that. So we have to keep that in mind in our estimate too. So we have to think which one we think pays more per hour. Well, we're going to take a look at this, and again, we don't want to do a whole bunch of number figuring here. We're going to do that down here. So we just want to figure out about how much more per hour. Now, we're just estimating, okay? So this is a guess. It's about. As I look, both jobs are very close. One job pays $2 more than the other job. So money to them really isn't a factor. It's about the same amount of money. They both make about $200, right? Because that's pretty close to $200. 208's close to 200, and 210 is close to 200. So they both make about $200. However, at this job, they have to work 8 hours a week. And at this job, they only have to work 7 hours a week. Okay? So 7 hours a week makes $210. 8 hours a week at this job makes $208. I didn't do any math yet. I just did some reading and thought about it. Well, this job pays more, and you have to work less. This job pays a little less, but you have to work an extra hour. Which job pays more per hour for each girl? Well, if we look at that, the babysitting is 8 hours for 208. The camp job is 7 hours for 210. They get more money for less work here. So the summer camp job pays more. So I'm going to write that. Summer camp job pays more. It's my estimate. I think I'm right on that one, though. But now, how much more per hour, we do need to do a little thinking about. Okay, because what do they make an hour? Now remember, they're both working and they're both getting paid. So 8 hours of work with both girls for $208, it actually isn't that for each girl per hour. How much more per hour? Okay, it's actually $105 divided by 8. And 104 and 105 divided by 8. Well, either way, it's about 8 hours a week for about $100. So if I have $100 and I divide it into 8 equal hours, how many dollars an hour is that? Okay, so if we have 100 divided by 8, now I know 8 times 10 is 80, 8 times 11 is 88, and 8 times 12, I could be looking on a times chart if I didn't know this, was 96. That's about as close as I'm going to get. So they're getting somewhere around about 12. They're getting about $12 an hour at that either job. Now this job's going to make a little bit more, but not a lot more. This one makes about $2 more. So she's getting about $12 an hour. And about how much more an hour are they getting for the other one? Well, then that's going to be 100 divided by 8. That's about 12, but a little bit more. It's only a tad bit more. It's not very much. So I'm going to say, for my estimate, a bit more. Less than $1. More. I don't have to answer here. This is my estimate. Now, my answer should reflect these answers that I believe, but I have to check it now to be sure. Okay, so that's what we think. We think the summer camp job pays more. We think that it pays a bit more, but it's less than $1. It's not very big difference. So now we need to go down and figure it out because down here it wants to know the exact answer. So now we have to compare the two jobs. This is the multi-step part, okay? We have to compare the two jobs. The babysitting job down here pays $108 each week, but this is per girl. So we know that 208 divided by 2 equals 104. And for the other job, we're just going to do them side by side. 210 divided in half, because remember, each girl gets half of this, is 105. Okay? Now up here, we were dividing by 8, and then the other one I was kind of just thinking by 7. It's a little more, but now down here, we're going to do this exactly. Okay? So together, it looks like, wow, they're making about the same amount of money. One girl makes 104 and 104, or 105 and 105. It really isn't that much difference in money, but because of the hours, it is going to make a difference. Because now we need to take this salary that each girl makes and divide it by the amount of hours they work and figure out what the difference is. So let's label these so we don't forget. This is the babysitting job. This is the summer camp job. I'm going to put a B and an S there so I remember that. All right, so now I need to take the amount of money that each girl makes per week and divide it by the amount of money or amount of hours that they have to work to get that money. Now, at the babysitting job, it says they have to work 8 hours. So that's 104 divided by 8. At the summer camp job, they each make about $105. They make $105. And they only have to work 7 hours. So we divide that by 7. Now, this quotient here and here is going to kind of help us formulate this answer out. And we're going to have an equation figured out of this after that we can put down here with a letter. That's going to kind of be showing our thinking. So let's do these and let's see. So 8 doesn't go into 1, but 8 does go into 10 one time. Okay. 10 minus 8 is 2. Bring down that 4. 24. 8 times 3 is 24. And look at that. So she's making $13 an hour here. Right? Okay. Now, over here, if the girls work, again, it's 1 because 7 doesn't go into 1, but it goes into 10 one time. So we do 10 minus 7 is 3. Bring down that 5. 7 times 5 is 35. Okay. So at this job, she's making $13 an hour, Margaret and her friend. And at this job, they make $15 an hour. Boy, this is multi-step, isn't it? We got steps here and steps here, but now everything is here that we need to show this. Now let's use this information to answer the question. That was the hard part right there. I thought this was the hardest part because I had to do a lot of thinking. After I did my thinking, it kind of clarified it and I just had to lay it out. So I think this estimate is actually helping me. All right, so which job pays more? Are we right about which job pays more? We know that from up there. Which job pays more? It's the summer camp job. So the summer camp job pays more per hour. It pays blank more per hour per girl. Oh, well, this makes $15 an hour per girl because we already divided in half for her and her friend. Okay, so this makes $15 an hour. This we divided in half per girl already. So this is $13 an hour. Okay, how much more is this job than this job? Well, when I hear how much more, I'm thinking 15, because I'm thinking subtraction. 15 minus 13 is going to give me my answer, which is 2. It pays $2 more per hour per girl. The dollar sign's already there. Now we need to turn this into an equation. Now it's here, but I wrote it over here to help too. The equation they want to know is how we got this answer. Well, we took 15 minus 13, and we got that. So down here in our equation, we'll have $15 minus $13 equals X. Doesn't matter what letter you pick, but that's what I picked. I picked X. So that's how you solve the problem. Now there's a lot of steps there, isn't there? You take a look at that, and there's a lot of work in each one of these problems, and you have to kind of break it up. And I'm going to give you some hints on the other problems to help you, just so you don't get too confused. But the first thing you want to do is read the story and mark anything that you feel is important. And for me, it was mostly numbers and the fact they had to work together. all those things, and who pays more per hour. That's what I thought. I highlighted it and circled it. You can do whatever you want to mark it. After that, you use your common sense and kind of read what it says and figure out like what they think to answer that question. I didn't do a lot of math here, just thinking. Then we do the math. Okay? Then we figure out what they want to know and how we got there. All right, so let's take a look at another one now that you've seen how to do that. Okay? Now this one I'm not going to do the whole way, but I'm going to help you set up. And the other two I'm going to ask you to do on your own. Anna wants to put 72 baseball cards in an album. Well, I see 72, so let's mark that. A square album fits 4 cards per page. Ooh, per page might be important. And a rectangular album fits, 5 cards per page. How many more pages will she need to fit all the cards if she uses the square album rather than the rectangular album? Oh, so she has a set of cards and she has a choice. She can put them in the square album, that 4 per page, or she can put them in the rectangular album for 5 per page. And because she can fit more cards on the rectangular album page, she wouldn't need as many pages as if she would have used the square album. So she's trying to make a decision on what to do, and we're kind of figuring this out along with her. Okay, so the question they want answered is how many more pages will she need? Now we know by common sense she's going to need less pages in the rectangular album because it holds more cards. So 72 there, I look at that number and I kind of just do some rough division in my head to kind of figure it out, okay? So I have to take the 72 and divide it by 4. I'll write a note here to help you. You don't want to actually do that. You want to round it, 70 divided by 4. Figure out 4 times what would get us pretty close. How many pages would it need to get there? Okay, so you could take 72 divided by 4 and you'd actually figure that out. But just here, you want to just kind of estimate. If I have 70, if I go 4 times 20, that's 80, so maybe a little less. They're probably going to need, 18, 19 pages. This one, they're probably going to need maybe 15 pages, maybe less. Okay, so you're going to figure out, just think about it. Don't hammer the math out now. Just figure out what you think. And you would put down Anna would need about, whatever your answer is, more pages. And again, this is a good guess. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is just to think about it. Then we go down here and do the math. Okay, so you're going to have your square album, you're going to have your rectangular album, and you're going to have to take 72 divided by 4 and 5, or 72 divided by 5. Okay, the number of cards divided by the amount per page in the square album, 4, and the amount divided in the other one, 5. You're going to do that. Now those are going to maybe have, possibly have remainders. So then if there's a remainder, you might have to add another page. And then you'll figure out this number should be higher than this one when you're done. And whatever that number is, here and here, is how many pages they need. So then you're going to look and say, oh, okay, this one is this number, this is this number. How many more? You're going to need to do some subtraction. You're probably going to take your answer from here, subtract it from your answer from here, and get your answer. And that is going to be your answer here. And then it asks, what did you do with any remainders that you found? Well, if I have cards and I'm throwing them in the book and I have 2 cards left over, you don't just throw those cards away. Or if I have 5 cards left over, I put them on another page. So you'd have to add another page, okay? But to solve the problem, you might want to work it up, like add a page, like I said, or whatever you did. If you just threw it out, you threw it out. But put what you did here in a sentence. Okay, on number 3 and 4, the last 2 problems, not going to spend as much time on these. I want you to kind of work on these on your own, but I'll read them to you. Jeremiah and Joff are raising money for the art club. Jeremiah raised $117 selling 9 raffle tickets. Joff raised $144 selling 8 fruit baskets. Which costs more, a raffle ticket or a fruit basket? How much more? Estimate. Work your 2 problems, your fruit basket and your, raffle tickets. Answer the question, and whatever equation you used with your work to solve it goes here. Number 4. Jessica is in charge of a big summer concert in the park. She's planning for 400 people to attend. She can seat 252 people in the stands, which fit 7 people per row. The remaining people must sit on folding chairs, which can be set up in rows of 9. how many total rows of people will be at the concert? So the stands is 252, so you're probably going to have to take that away from the 400. And then put the rest on chairs here, do some division, okay? Because you know you're going to use 7 people a row here, okay? And then you're going to figure this out. This is a big help, this number, by the way. And then you're going to figure that out here. So you're going to have to estimate how many rows of people will be at the concert. That's in the stands and in the folding chairs. So you know that 252 are taken care of here already. So you know there's about 250 off of that. So you only have to seat roughly 150 people. And then you're going to put them in rows of 9. So I think you're going to take that 150, that difference, and divide it by 9, which you could do by 10. And that would tell you about how many are needed here. When we estimate, we aren't using exact numbers. Okay, so one like this, you want to round those numbers. So we know there's 400. I'm going to help you with this one because this one's a little different. 400 minus the 250 is about 150, right? Okay. And then we're going to take that 150 and we're going to divide it by 9, but I'm going to divide it by 10 because that's a lot easier to do. So then I'm going to take the 150 divided by 10. This one I had to do a little math with because to figure it out. And that's 15. So my answer, my estimate, is about 15 rows. Now, is that right or not? Well, you're going to find out when you figure this out. You've got to figure out what the right number is. You have to find out the exact number here. Then you have to figure out the exact number here, and that's going to answer your question. That's going to tell you about 15. You should be close to 15 when you get it. And then they want to know, what do you do if you have people left over? You make them stand? Well, no. You have to start a new row and throw in some chairs, right? So that's kind of what they're talking about here. I guess at your concert, you decide what you're going to do with those remainders. Those remainders, if you find them, are you going to give them extra chairs in a new row, or are you just going to say, sorry, standing room only? You could figure that out however you want. You're going to write that down here. So these take a lot of thinking, and we may do some of this together during one of our online meetings because these are difficult problems, and I knew it would take a little time to go through it. But hopefully that helped. Your steps that you do in the beginning is to highlight, estimate, and answer your problems, and you'll get your answer if you just work through it. Just remember the big key word, multi-step. You're not going to do one problem and bam, have the answer. It's going to take figuring, maybe 2 or 3 steps before you get there. So this is a difficult lesson, but I think you have a lot of help there with setup, and I'd like to try this gradual release. If you did this one with me, you know how to do it. Then this one's set up for you to do. And then this one I want you to try because it's like those, and this one I gave you a hint on what to do. All right, let's take a look at the math boxes before we're done today. And they're not too terrible. They're not real bad. Okay, so the math boxes for 7-7, again, your date and time, please. You are going to figure out how much these answers are. You can use lattice, partial products, whatever method you want to do, traditional. If you need room, because this is not a lot of room, I understand that. Get some scrap paper and just attach it to this when you're done by some tape or fold it over with it or whatever. Here it says we brought 6 granola bars to the game. At the end of the game, there were 2.5 bars left. How many were eaten? Ooh, sounds like a subtraction problem. When you eat stuff, it goes away, right? Here, you're going to be drawing the next figure in this pattern on this line and then describing the pattern with a short phrase. What's happening in this pattern? Is it doubling or what's happening there? Here we have a line plot all set up about water left, and it says the bottles are all the same size. If you combine the water in the bottles that are 4/8 full, how much water would you have? So we're focusing, let me highlight that for you. You could circle it if you want or whatever. We're focusing on this water. There are 2 bottles that have 4/8 of it left. How do I know there's 2? Because there's 2 X's. 1, 2. 2 bottles of 4/8. You're going to add those together to figure how much is left, and you might need to convert that into a mixed number to get your answer. Down here, the Paula's answer to problem 4, which is the problem I was just talking about, is 4/8. She's saying that if you have these 2 bottles of 4/8 water and you add them together, you have 4/8. Is she right or not? Now, you can't just write yes, she's right, or no, she's wrong. You also have to explain why she's right or wrong. Okay, so what did she do wrong if she's saying that that's the answer and you don't agree? Or why is that right if you look at that and you say, yeah, I agree with that answer? Okay, that one's going to take a little thinking. But these math boxes aren't that bad. I think they're going to look pretty good. All right, good luck with that, guys and gals. That is a difficult assignment, but I hope my help got you through what you needed. If you get hung up on a problem, you can ask about it or contact me, and I'd be glad to talk to you one-on-one or at one of our meetings and figure that out and help you solve those. We'll do some of those together if we need to. But I think if you do the one with me and at least get number 2 done on your own, you definitely have some good understanding of that concept. All right. Good luck, mathematicians. Have a lot of fun with that, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.